Alright. Hey Middle Isle team, hope you're all doing well. I'm here to give the guide documentation video for importing our animations into Unity for testing. I've just put together a new animation sandbox test scene, and what I want you all to do next week is take the animations you've been working on and try and get them into the scene working and see how they work, see how they look, and what kind of changes you need to make based on how it looks from the isometric perspective, from the distance of the camera, and overall how it looks in the engine. So right now I've got Jinju's idle animation on the Ekko rig here. And this will also be a discussion on how to get the Ekko rig to work properly in Unity. Right now it's the only one that both is completely animatable, like easy to animate on, and also works with the humanoid avatar pipeline. It's the only one of those that we've got. So here I've got Jinju's idle. I really like it. It's really good. And it's it's also worth mentioning that I have referenced in my version of the Ekko rig without his sword or his pack, any of the bones that go with those. I'm going to put that in the drive so you can reference that one in instead. It shouldn't make too much of a difference as long as you haven't animated on any of those bones, but probably better to err on the side of that just in case. So I've got the idle animation open here, and I'm going to show you how to export it first and then show you how to get it working in Unity. Now the first thing I need to do is I need to make sure that these numbers down here are the same as these numbers over here. So I'm going to change this to a 36 and this to a 94 because when you grab the whole thing, the FBX exporter is going to want to pull these numbers, and you'd rather change them over here than in there. So now that I've done that, I'm going to grab the Ekko rig bones and the Ekko rig models from the outliner. They're all just these two. And I'm also going to hold shift and double click on the timeline, grab all the animation, and say file, export selection, and hit the little box. And I'm going to choose FBX export. None of these much matter. And I'm going to say edit preset to make sure that all of these settings are the same. So we do smooth mesh. I've checked animation, bake animation, and it already is grabbing all these. And saying resample all, and then make sure that you've got all the same settings that I do over here. Do not click these mess things up. And you want to generate log data and show the warnings, because there's a couple warnings, but neither of them are really super important. But if there is another warning, oh, and you want to convert to meters right there. So if there is an important warning, that means it'll show up. So I'll close that, and I'll say export selection, and I'll pull up our project, and it already pulls up the project middle aisle assets animations character animations folder. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna name my FBX. I'm gonna say Ekko idle test. And I'm going to call it idle test 3 because I was just doing idle test 2.bx. And I'm going to export that selection. Wait for it to go. Pull up these. These warnings are totally fine. I'm pretty sure I don't totally know what they mean because I'm not a rigger or an animator. So close that down. That all went well. Now we're going to take things into Unity. And I'm just going to, first of all, grab my game. And, oh, no, first I'm going to open the animation sandbox. So, in Unity, this is our main scene. This is the scene that will pop up that's got all of our work in it. You've got our character running around, picking up stuff and, you know, all the normal stuff. But this is not the one that you're going to be working in. So you're going to say File, Open Scene, and go to Scenes, and open up Animation Sandbox. And what you'll see should look something like this. So here's our game, and here's our scene. And this is the Animation Sandbox. And basically what this is it's a pared down version of the animation controller and the script that animates the movement in isometric perspective. And right now it's using the Ekko rig, but I can show you how to switch the rig out later using the hierarchy and a couple of these little options in the animator avatar. That'll be another guide documentation video. Right now what we want to do is we want to mess around with animations. So you've got the game open here, and by default I've got the standard idle, but then I've got Gingy's walk that she blocked out and did the first pass on, and the run. These are working well on the Ekko rig. They work slightly less well on like the Xbot or the Swordswoman rig, or Xbot or Swordswoman avatars, but they work well on the Ekko avatar. And this is a good sign that we should be able to transfer animation pretty well as long as we're using the same rig that we are in Maya as we are in Unity. But right now, Ekko's the only one we can actually animate on and put in Unity properly, so he's what we're using. So if I go into Assets, Animations, Character Animation, you'll see our idle is here. And there are a couple of things that we need to do for this. First of all, we need to go from generic to humanoid in the rig section. Again, I click this shows up in the inspector. And then we hit this create from this model and hit apply. And we got some warnings. We're getting stuff that's not working, but that's okay. And then under animation, import messages, whole bunch of stuff that's not really working. And if we come in here and play him, he doesn't really look quite right. So these are a couple of fixes that you need to make. First of all, you're going to click bake into pose, original, and you want it to loop. I believe it's body orientation. And then, yeah, root transform position Y, bake into pose. That makes sure that the ground doesn't bob up and down with him in here, and he actually bobs up and down in here. Yeah, I'll hit apply on that. If I look at this, yeah, body orientation, original, we want it to loop. But that still hasn't really fixed it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say configure on this rig, go back into our scene view, and you can check him out right here. Now, what you need to do for Ekko, and this won't be true for all of our rigs. Each of our rigs is going to be different, have a couple of different problems, but you want to come down here, and for the lower leg, instead of grabbing knee upper, you want to grab knee lower on the left, and then on the right. And you see how these bones are green now. That's good. And then for the transformation stuff, you want to come back up here, go to muscles and hit apply. Go to muscles and settings, and you want to click on translation DOF. Hit apply. And then you'll see if I hit done, come back into this scene, and go to our idle, our animation, the only warnings on here should be for knee upper and the pelvis. But you'll see in the little inspector here that he plays properly now. The knee upper and the pelvis, they're not as important for how Gingy's been animating. In general, for the future, when we're testing animations out with this rig, I would say try and just avoid animating on those bones, whichever controls control those. But he works right here, right now. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to show you how to get those into the scene. So right now he's got the standard idle that we downloaded from Mixamo. If I go to Animator and I click on the animation testing scene animation controller, which was what was on that avatar, go to idle. Right now it's got the Mixamo idle. But instead, or not the Mixamo idle, the Unity default assets idle. But instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab the Ekko idle. I actually also probably want to rename it. We'll say Ekko idle, and hit apply. Yeah, want to rename it so that we just keep track of things. Go to idle here in the in this animation testing scene animation controller, and just drag and drop this in. And for those of you that watched that Bill Buckley video, the video series, this should be pretty familiar. It's a lot like the one in Unreal. I have already set this up so that it works properly with the script I wrote for the isometric movement. But eventually we'll be setting up other stuff to do like stuff like idle events where after a little while our main character like does something, or if you idle too long, or maybe gets tired if you run too long, stuff like that. Like I keep saying, our animation in this project is scalable, so we're going to keep making more animations to get more characterization out of our model, and that means that this network will get more and more complicated. Anyway, back to the scene. Now you can see if I play, we can look at Jinju's wonderful idle animation playing on Ekko in Unity, and we're in game. So you can see this is exactly how these animations that you've made will work once you're once you put them in the game. So this is a really perfect mechanism to basically check your work. What I want you to start doing is, after you finish a polishing pass, go through those steps, bring it into the engine, bring it into the animation sandbox, and check out how it looks. Like I think the idle looks really nice. I think the run maybe needs some work. It's worth mentioning that it's still really good animation. I could never do any better because I suck at 3D animation. But it's worth really getting used to how your animations look different in Unity and from this perspective, versus from Maya. Where also, like, even from the scene perspective, right? Like, if I go into scene, here, let me drag the game over here so that you can still see the scene. Looks different. Anyway, getting used to that, figuring out exactly how you want to animate for this particular perspective and for this particular engine is going to be, like, really helpful for exactly how we want to design our game and how we want to test stuff. Last thing, if you have animated and you realize that the footsteps, the pace that you've set isn't quite matching up with the speed of the character, if you go to armature in the hierarchy and you go down to the player movement script, you can set the speed and sprint speed. So if I take him down to 0.8, maybe a little higher, maybe a little bit lower. Yeah. So you can adjust these on the fly, and then they'll go back to how they were after you're done playing, and you can readjust them to exactly what you wanted them to be, and they'll stay that way. So in order to properly test your animations, especially with walking and running, that's how you do it. I hope this has been helpful. I really look forward to seeing all of your animations in the game. I'm sure they're going to be awesome. And I really hope that you get excited and really feel good about trying to test your animations in the engine, because honestly, it's just really exciting. It's really exciting, like getting a character to move in a video game with our work that we've done. So I hope you're as excited as I am. I will see you in the next guide documentation video and in the meetings on Monday.